some sense that something was going on based on what they were being told about the radio station?
Yes, that they were working an issue at the 3 o'clock of the stage.
We'll go to Andrew Goodsworth with Reuters.
Thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask you about changes moving forward. Former President Trump has said he wants to continue having outdoor rallies. What specifically will be different at the next rally that wasn't the case in Butler? And if I could ask a follow-up to, do you have information in the 30 seconds after the gunman was confronted on the roof by a local law enforcement officer that there were local law enforcement trying to communicate with the Secret Service that there was someone on the roof with a gun and that transmission was the one that was missed?
Okay. So with respect to the former president wanting to get back out there, listen, it's a campaign season, right? Candidates want to be out there. They want to be, whether it's an indoor site or an outdoor site, it's on the Secret Service to make sure that we create a secure environment. Listen, we identify challenges, we identify concerns, and then it's on us to figure out what we need to do to mitigate that. So if there are going to be future campaign rallies outside, it's going to be on us to make sure that we are providing all the assets and resources to make sure that those sites are indeed secure. With respect to the radio transmissions, based on what the FBI, my colleague from the FBI testified the other day, and they are working on isolating some of those radio frequencies from the state and locals, that there was somebody who did in fact radio out that they had seen the individual with a weapon. What I can tell you is that that piece of information, that vital piece of information, and by no fault of anyone, it was a very stressful situation. It did not make it over. Our detail, our counter snipers, everyone that was there that day, were operating under the assumption and under the last bit of information they had received that there was an issue that the locals were working at the 3 o'clock. That's the bit of information that we had, not anything about a weapon.
I wanted you to address, or if you can, describe the Pittsburgh field office and their level of experience, especially in preparing for events like this, and also have they explained their thinking and how they defined the perimeter that day?
Sure. Thanks, Holmes. Our Pittsburgh field office, I don't think there's anybody in the Secret Service who is feeling this more than the men and women of our Pittsburgh field office. And I've met with them. And they are down right now. And so when I've met with them the other day, it was very difficult. It's difficult for them. They feel like they let their colleagues down. They feel like they let the country down. And they are wearing this, and it's open. You can see it. It's an open wound that they are carrying. They are a very experienced office, and what I will say is they are cooperating with the mission assurance. They understand the gravity of this situation, and they are definitely down right now.
If I can, one follow-up. You testified about one of the Secret Service failures was an assumption that day. I'm curious how the Secret Service can even make assumptions regarding protection, because it seems antithetical to the entire protection mission.
Yeah. So when I said it's a failure to challenge our assumptions, meaning the assumption that, hey, that's going to be addressed or that's going to be covered by state and local. So earlier this week, I convened a call with all of our special agents in charge of all of our field offices, and I expressed to them, listen, we need our state and local counterparts, but we also have to be very direct, very clear about what our expectations are about what we need from them, whether it's a particular asset, whether it's particular numbers of personnel. We need to be very clear so that they have an understanding of exactly what we need from them. That's on us. We need to be better communicators and articulate exactly what we need to mitigate any challenges, concerns, or anything that we identify during that advanced process. And so I have full confidence in our SACs in the field. I have full confidence in our state and local counterparts that moving forward now, we're not going to have this assumption that, oh, we think that they have it. No, we're going to work together. We're going to have good, hard, fierce conversations about what we're going to do, and then we're going to go out there and we're going to make all of these venues secure moving forward.
Thank you, Acting Director. One thing, for starters, I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on a portion of the timeline in which you address a communication between the Secret Service detail and personnel at the Pittsburgh field office. It just struck me as a little vague, and I was curious if you could elaborate on what that communication was.
So the former president's details, they had an advanced person on the ground who was responsible for the site. The radio transmission goes out about locals working an issue at the 3 o'clock. The member of that detail called their Pittsburgh field office counterpart. Hey, what do you know about this? In the midst, right in the middle of that phone conversation, the shots begin firing. So that's the context of it.
And sorry if I missed. Could you say how they became aware of the locals working an issue in the first place to even have that conversation with them?
That was the radio transmission that was put out by our security room.
I got it. Okay. Just to follow up, I'm curious about, you mentioned that this was the first event where Secret Service counter snipers had been assigned as part of the security for former President Trump. To what extent do you think that factored into what were ultimately shown to be the failures? Just that this was a first time, at least in a while, in his capacity as a former president, that they were there on the site.
So
the novelty of it. Sorry.
Sure. So let me just clarify one thing. This was the first time that Secret Service counter snipers, but the former president at campaign rallies has actually been getting state and local resources. So tactical assets, counter snipers from state and locals. So with respect to why they were there in Butler, listen, we evaluate our threat landscape every day. We calibrate based on that threat. We evaluated a threat stream that we have, and we put our Secret Service counter sniper personnel out there. And looking back, it was very fortunate that we did. But the former president will have counter sniper coverage moving forward, as will the president, the vice president, Senator Vance, and then we'll await the eventual Democratic vice presidential nominee. We are going to put full resources out there to make sure that our campaign cadence now is obviously picked up, and we're going to make sure that we have all the resources out there to address any challenges that we have.
Thank you. As you're doing this review, are you looking at the days leading up to this event and the instructions that you gave to state and local and federal partners? I know in the past there used to be a PowerPoint presentation that was given before events like this, where people who were part of each unit in the Secret Service would stand up, go through the mission, who was assigned to them, what they'd be doing. I understand that did not happen in this case and hasn't been happening for some time prior. Is that something you think was missing here? Is that something you might review and bring back? And do you also think the Secret Service is too reliant on state, local, and federal partners? I mean, you have almost 2,000 HSI agents helping in events coming this fall. That's a third of their workforce, and it takes a lot from state and locals as well. So first, would you bring back the PowerPoint? Do you think there should have been more planning? And are you too reliant on state and local and other partners?
Thanks, Julia. So that will be part of the mission assurance, the communications and what was communicated leading up to it. What I can tell you now, based on information I have, is there was, and what you're referring to is what we call a police meeting, where we bring all the agencies together that will be directly supporting a particular visit. We know that there was a police meeting. We know that there were agencies from the various jurisdictions were present. The ones, and when I say that, the ones that were the primary ones identified with providing support and were going to be involved in the advanced planning process, meaning they were going to provide a counterpart, kind of like what you said, the PowerPoint. If you're going to be conducting the site, this is Special Agent so-and-so, and here's their contact info. And then usually at the end of that meeting, everyone kind of goes off and they form up and they go over, how they're going to go out and do the walkthroughs and identify some of the things.
Saying that did happen. It did do a PowerPoint
based on the information, I don't know about the PowerPoint. I can tell you that there was a police meeting. With respect to the PowerPoint, I certainly think that visuals are always good. I think that if we're not using it, we certainly will. But that goes back to my direction that we have to be very specific about what we're communicating and what our expectations are moving forward. With respect to the reliance on state and local law enforcement, listen, there are 700,000 full-time law enforcement officers, over 700,000 full-time law enforcement officers in the United States. The majority of prosecutions in the criminal justice system in the United States are done by state and locals. That's a result of criminal investigations that they do every day in their communities to keep them safe. Over 135 officers died last year serving their communities, federal, state, and local. 47 of them died by violent means, gunfire. There's not an over-reliance on them. They're out there every day securing their communities. They know the terrain. They know the people. More importantly, they know the local laws. If you're in a state where it's open carry, we're going to rely on them to enforce local laws. I, as a federal agent, cannot go out there and enforce the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I need those state and local law enforcement officers. So I would push back on that. With respect to leveraging other federal partners, when we were in the Department of Treasury and I was a brand new agent, I would stand post during a campaign year with agents from ATF, IRS criminal investigations. We were all one big happy family. Customs. Customs moved over to DHS just like we did. So we do this every 4 years. We rely on those partners. We use them during national special security events like the Democratic National Convention, the United Nations General Assembly, the presidential inauguration. Those are whole of government security operations, which the Secret Service is the lead planning for, and we're going to bring in partners from across the government. I don't feel that it's an over-reliance. It's something that we have done going back to our days at Treasury, and we're going to continue to do that. We need those partners, and we need those state and local officers.
Can I follow up here?
Sure.
There's just something I didn't understand. When you're talking about that time period where locals understand that this person is a threat, but it's before Secret Service finds out, understands communication issues, were they not standing right next to them, or were they in two separate command centers?
So we had our security room, and then they had a unified command post, and we had Pennsylvania State Police officer representative in our security room.
There was no Secret Service agent in the unified?
No, there was not.
So are there typically two separate command centers?
That was unique. As I understand it, that's an emergency management model that they use. As I mentioned in that conversation with our special agents in charge in the field, I've directed them, hey, we need to rethink where we put our security room. If the large majority of our partners are in a unified command post or in a different location, we need to probably be there too. And so we have to rethink how we, where we put our security rooms, and we are in fact doing that now moving forward.
So let's go to Ellen Gilmer with Bloomberg. We'll do the pool. And if there's time for follow-up, we got to take your time.
Thanks so much. Appropriators in Congress this week delayed consideration of DHS's budget for fiscal 25. They want to know more about what Secret Service needs. I know you said Tuesday, obviously every agency head is always going to say they need more resources, but can you be kind of specific about what resource needs there may be, particularly when we're looking at the technology issues, radio transmissions,
Sure.
the CUAS system?
So following this, we have had tremendous support from the Department of Homeland Security and from the Secretary. And we have, in fact, looked at all of these needs. Given this dynamic, high-threat environment that we're operating in order to meet this, we can meet this now. But it is going to require additional investments and resources, and we are having those conversations. We certainly we've had great support not only from the department, but also our appropriations committees, and we are working through kind of what our needs are right now. We will have future conversations about this, and we are appreciative that everyone is really coming together to make sure that we have what we need to meet this high threat.
And some senators have started to bring up that old chestnut of should Secret Service be in DHS. Is that a conversation that you think is productive at this time?
Listen, that's not for me to weigh in on, but what I will tell you is, there's also a lot of discussion about why should the Secret Service do criminal investigations. And what I would say is this. We were founded in 1865 as an investigative entity. It's in our DNA. I firmly believe that the best protection agents learn those skills being criminal investigators. You learn how to interact with people. You learn organizational skills. You learn to be analytical. Those are all traits that you need to have when you're on a detail. Moreover, if you look at where we are today, buildings, communities, everything is interconnected. And so we have a particular expertise in cyber and in cybercrime and critical systems protection. And so when you overlay that investigative skill set that we have, it's more than just securing the president or our protectees in a brick and mortar setting. It's also protecting them from things that make them vulnerable due to cyber. And so the only way to learn those skills, to be able to detect, to be able to analyze, to be able to make sure that we are hardening not only cyber systems, but hardening a building that is fed by cyber systems, the only way to gain that experience, that knowledge, is to be able to do criminal investigations. Additionally, it is within our investigative authority to follow up on threats. People make threats to the president and the people we protect every day. We need to have that domestic and international network of field offices to be able to track down those threats. And if necessary, bring those people to justice and present them to a U.S. Attorney's Office. So I know there's been a lot of talk. Should we or shouldn't we? Should we do this? Should we be in DHS? The bottom line is this. If you want the Secret Service to continue to be the Secret Service and be effective at what it does, it needs to be doing investigations, and it probably needs to be in the Department of Homeland Security until Congress or others have an opportunity to weigh in.
Doctor, for the last questions, we're going to go to the pool for those that couldn't be here today. Jake, yes.
Just a quick question. There's a report that a whistleblower has alleged that you personally directed cuts to the counter-surveillance division, which led to the threat assessments team failing to perform its duties that it typically would before the Butler rally. Is that accurate? Is that allegation accurate?
So I've become aware of this. We got a congressional letter on it. What I can tell you is that the counter-surveillance division, they do a fantastic job. They have a very specific mission set. A lot of that mission set is here in the National Capital Region, focused on permanent protective sites. But they do go out and they support, when requested, they go out and support former details. I know that there's been allegations that I personally cut or that I denied requests. The counter-surveillance division has been out there supporting the former president's detail at some very high-profile events. They continue to provide that support, and they're out there providing support right now. So we're going to respond to the letter that we received, and we'll be sure to make that. I'm sure they will. We'll be able to share that response when the committee says it's okay to respond.
Is that a no, though? Did you cut funding personally?
I did not. No.
Did you finally figure out how he got that gun on the roof? Did it fit in the backpack?
We're working to determine that. That's something that the FBI is working on. There's a couple of, I don't want to speculate as to exactly how he would have gotten it up there.
Director Rowe, the 2024 campaign is heating up. Y'all are adding more and more candidates to your protected list. Can you ensure protection of those candidates?
So we have already trained numerous details to be able to mobilize, to pick up multiple candidates. Most of the presidential campaign activity usually picks up coming out of the conventions. So we are prepared for this. It's just that now we are in such a heightened dynamic environment. We're actually making sure that we are probably putting everything we can to make sure that we don't have a mission failure. It is incumbent upon everyone in the Secret Service. We all understand the gravity of this situation, and we are rising to meet this moment. And we are certainly, as we go into the Democratic National Convention, as we await picking up another candidate with the eventual naming of a vice presidential nominee from the Democratic side, we are going to staff that, and we're going to make sure that we have all the resources and assets necessary to provide that level of protection. Thank you, everyone.